It was November 24th, 1971, Thanksgiving Eve. Portland International Airport was busy with holiday travelers rushing home. Among them was a quiet, unremarkable man in his mid-40s. He wore a dark suit, a black raincoat, sunglasses, and carried a briefcase. He walked up to the Northwest Orient Airlines counter and paid cash, $20, for a one-way ticket to Seattle. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. He boarded Flight 305, a Boeing 727, and took seat 18C in the last row by himself. The flight was short, about 30 minutes, and completely unremarkable, until the plane was in the air. Cooper ordered a bourbon and soda. Then he passed a folded note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner, a young woman working her way down the aisle. She assumed it was a phone number, the kind of thing bored businessmen slip to flight attendants all the time, and dropped it into her purse without reading it. Cooper leaned toward her and said quietly, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She opened it. The message was blunt. He had a bomb in his briefcase. He wanted her to sit next to him. She did. Cooper opened the briefcase just enough for her to see wires, red cylinders, and a battery. Whether it was a real bomb has never been confirmed, but nobody on that plane was willing to test it. His demands were simple and specific: $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle to refuel the plane on arrival. He was calm the entire time. Witnesses would later describe him as polite, almost gentlemanly. He tipped the flight attendant and offered to pay for his drink even while holding the plane hostage. The pilots radioed Seattle. Northwest Orient's president personally authorized the payment. The airline wanted this handled quietly and fast. While ground crews scrambled to pull together $200,000 in $20 bills, about $1.3 million today, the plane circled Puget Sound for nearly 2 hours, burning fuel and buying time. The FBI used those 2 hours wisely. Every $20 bill was photographed, and the serial numbers were recorded. 10,000 individual bills in total. It was a detail that would matter enormously years later. At around 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Cooper allowed the other passengers and 2 flight attendants to leave the plane. In exchange, he received the cash, packed into a canvas bag, and 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve. Only the flight crew remained: the pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant, Tina Mucklow. Cooper directed the pilot to fly toward Mexico City at a low altitude of 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down and the wing flaps partially lowered, a slow, unusual configuration that would let a person survive jumping out of the aircraft. Somewhere over southwestern Washington, Cooper ordered the crew into the cockpit and told them to stay there. He lowered the rear stairway of the 727, a feature unique to that aircraft, into the open night air. At 8:13 p.m., the flight crew felt a sudden pressure change and a shift in the plane's balance. Cooper had jumped. The conditions were brutal. It was dark. It was raining. Temperatures at that altitude were estimated to be around -7 degrees Celsius, and Cooper jumped wearing nothing but a business suit, loafers, and a thin raincoat. He had strapped the money, $200,000, to his body, and he vanished into the black sky above the Cascade Mountains near the Washington-Oregon border. The plane landed safely in Reno a short time later. The FBI launched one of the largest manhunts in American history. Hundreds of soldiers, FBI agents, and local volunteers searched the dense, mountainous forest for weeks. Helicopters combed the area. Nothing turned up. No parachute, no money, no body. The case quickly became a media sensation. A mysterious man had hijacked a plane, extorted the equivalent of a small fortune, and disappeared into thin air without a trace, seemingly outsmarting the entire federal government. He was an instant folk hero. Songs were written about him. T-shirts were sold. Bars in the Pacific Northwest still hold D.B. Cooper Days celebrations to this day. Here's a strange detail most people don't know. the hijacker never actually called himself D.B. Cooper. He bought his ticket under the name Dan Cooper. A journalist covering the story got the name wrong during the initial confusion, reporting it as D.B. Cooper instead. And the mistake stuck so thoroughly that it became the name the entire world would know him by. Interestingly, there was a real man named D.B. Cooper living in Oregon at the time, who the FBI briefly and mistakenly investigated before clearing him. The name that defines this 50-year mystery was, in a strange way, itself a case of mistaken identity.
For years, investigators debated a single central question: did Cooper survive the jump at all? The case against survival is strong. He jumped at night, in a rainstorm, into heavily forested mountains, wearing dress shoes and a suit, with no experience apparently in skydiving into wilderness terrain. The parachute he used was a reserve chute that couldn't actually be steered. Investigators who later reviewed the case believed it was entirely possible, maybe even likely, that Cooper didn't survive the landing. But no body was ever found. And in the world of unsolved mysteries, absence of proof is often mistaken for proof of escape. Then, in 1980, the case took its strangest turn. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand along the Columbia River, north of Portland, when he uncovered 3 decaying bundles of cash. FBI analysts confirmed the serial numbers matched bills from the ransom payment, nearly $6,000 worth, disintegrating and held together by rubber bands. It was the only physical evidence from the case ever recovered, and it only deepened the mystery. How did the money end up there? Nowhere near where investigators believed Cooper had landed. Had the money washed downriver over the years? Had Cooper buried it there himself? Had someone else found it after he died in the wilderness? Nobody knows. Over the decades, the FBI investigated hundreds of suspects. A few names have stood out. Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. was a Vietnam veteran and experienced skydiver who committed an almost identical hijacking less than 5 months after Cooper. He even used the same escape method, jumping from a 727's rear stairs with ransom money. McCoy was caught within days. Some investigators believed he was Cooper, having refined his technique the second time. But McCoy didn't match several physical descriptions given by witnesses, and he had a solid alibi placing him elsewhere on Thanksgiving Eve. Kenneth Christensen was a former paratrooper and Northwest Orient employee, the very airline that was hijacked, who reportedly told family members odd, cryptic things about the case before he died. His family became convinced enough to go public decades later, but the FBI found no hard evidence connecting him to the crime. Robert Rackstraw was a Vietnam veteran with a background in demolitions and parachuting, and a long history of fraud and criminal behavior. A team of amateur investigators spent years building a case against him, pointing to a strange, coded message allegedly sent to newspapers after the hijacking. Rackstraw always denied it, and he died in 2019 without ever being formally charged. None of these theories has ever produced conclusive proof. DNA evidence recovered from the hijacker's tie, left behind on the plane, has been compared to dozens of suspects. It has never definitively matched anyone. In July 2016, after 45 years, the FBI formally closed active investigation into the D.B. Cooper case, citing the need to focus resources elsewhere. They noted that of the thousands of leads received over the decades, none had resulted in a definitive identification. But the file was never truly closed to the public imagination. Amateur investigators, retired agents, and true crime obsessives continue to dig through the evidence, chase new leads, and propose new suspects to this day. Online communities remain devoted entirely to solving the mystery. Books are still being written. Documentaries are still being made. Somewhere in the forests of southwestern Washington, or perhaps nowhere at all, lies the answer to one of America's last great unsolved mysteries. A man walked onto a plane, threatened to blow it out of the sky, collected a fortune, and stepped out into the darkness, never to be seen again. Did he die on impact, swallowed by the wilderness? Did he walk away and live out the rest of his life quietly, money buried somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, watching from the shadows as the world tried and failed to find him? We may never know. But for one night in 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper proved that sometimes the most audacious crimes are the ones that are never solved at all. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. These cases matter because the people at the center of them mattered. If you want more detailed examinations of unsolved disappearances and true crime mysteries, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Stay safe out there. We will see you in the next video.